Hi, everyone. Hi, Taylor. How are you today?
Hello, Bridget. How are you today?
Great. You have beautiful sunshine in Huntsville, Alabama as we speak, and so do we. Almost. I mean, the
Yay!
sun's going down because we're an hour ahead of you, but
Right?
it's still good.
But we had a springtime day today, almost
Oh.
70 degrees. Short sleeves, which means tornado season number one is rapidly approaching.
Right.
So,
I, I
it does have its pitfalls, but
I
it
know.
was a nice day nonetheless.
This is what we say here when we're tired, sick and tired of shoveling no alligators, no tornadoes, none
You-
of this, right?
Absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. And have you been watching the Olympics at all, or not really?
So, no, I don't follow
No,
it that closely.
me
I see
neither.
the recaps. And I was so sad for the quad god.
What happened to the quad god?
I think when he was doing his individual skate,
Uh-huh.
he fell like four
Oh
times. I just
no.
think I think he got a gold medal for the group sport, which is
Hmm.
great. I mean,
But not the individual. Yeah.
I think he just collapsed under the immense pressure. Like
Mm.
I don't even know the child's name, but it's just quad god
Oh,
everywhere. That it's such it's more pressure than I would want.
right. That's for
Just
sure.
just let him go and do his thing, and then after the Olympics, give
Hmm.
him the title. Like.
That's it.
But
I
that's
want.
just me. I don't. That's nobody asked me.
I would just like to point out that I'm a terrible Canadian because there's been a controversy over something or other that the curlers have been doing. The thing with you push
Oh
that
yeah, the
big stone thing and you sweep in
yeah,
front of it or whatever. Like I don't get curling at all. Like great, like I'm not against it. I just don't understand it. And apparently there was a thing with a finger and somebody was cheating. I think or something. They were doing something they weren't supposed to do with their finger. Anyway, so there's memes all over the internet, and I keep scratching my
yes.
head saying I do not get this.
I heard it at Sunday lunch yesterday. What conversation about you're supposed to just let it go and
Right. Not
not
hold it.
tip it right,
Tip
like
it.
but somebody just fingered it right on down the ice. So there's been a stir there.
Oh boy. Anyway, so it's
Yes,
fun. I know that we
yes,
have Canada has a bunch of medals and people here are happy. So I'm happy. What can I say? And
right.
I
I
love
mean,
watching, but I just don't understand half of it. That's okay.
no, I think I get more of the Summer Olympics, but look,
Yeah.
regardless, you've made it that far. You're representing your country. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's the time of your life. You're young, you're healthy. Like, just enjoy the moment.
Yes, yeah. So good for them. Meanwhile, in Alabama, just to keep folks updated on
Oh,
that one story about the prisons, because we talked, it's like our
yes,
third week in a row talking about this movie, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's called The Alabama Solution. It's available in the US on HSO
HBO.
and
Yep.
it's HBO. It's just sorry, HBO, and in Canada on Crave. So if you had Bell Fibe at home, for instance, it's on Crave. That's where I got mine. Um, and it's a documentary that was filmed in good part thanks to footage from illegal cell phones, like cell phones that had been
Hmm.
smuggled into those prisons, and it shows real conditions, and it's not pretty. And last week we were talking about the fact that the inmates that have been involved in this filming operation had been punished, sent to solitary and various other kinds of punishments, and now they're suing because they say that this violates their First Amendment rights to free expression. And I'm pulling for them.
Yes.
Absolutely, and
Good
they should
luck.
sue and they should win.
Yes, and and they were talking that the families, their lawyers, were having hard times getting in touch with them because they were in this solitary confinement. I don't think that that's helping the case when you're
Mhm,
isolating someone like that,
mhm.
and that's one thing to isolate from general population, but to keep them away from legal counsel, I think
Right.
is
Mm-mm.
that just shows guilt in my opinion.
Right.
What
You're
do I
trying to
know?
hide
But
something, yeah.
right,
You're
it's not
telling
looking
on
good.
yourself when you're doing that,
Absolutely,
exactly,
yes.
and we'll see
So
if the Oscars are or it's coming up in a few weeks, right?
ish, yes.
So
I
ish,
don't.
a couple of weeks,
Yeah,
early March, I
well,
believe. Like we're so on top of things, and come here for your accurate information about all the
that's
things.
right.
But
About
I know it's
all
coming
things
up.
Alabama.
Right, but if it does win the Oscar, that's going to be something else too,
More
and
pressure.
yeah, and it goes to the same. And I know that Doug Jones, who's running for governor as the Democrat,
Yes.
has also been. I saw a piece of email that he sent to his supporters about this about a week or so ago, saying that clearly this is not okay, and we need to do something about this. And I,
Mm.
I don't remember all the details, but he's aware of the situation, and. who knows? Maybe this will become an item in the campaign for governor,
Right. We do need
as it
prison
should.
reform for sure.
Yes. Yeah,
You
and it's
know,
not because you're in jail and you're guilty of having committed, even if you're guilty of a crime that's sordid and awful and disgusting and every, you still have rights as a human
absolutely
being,
right.
and you
And
should be treated accordingly.
and I see the other side of the coin. You know, like if you break the rules in jail, and you have contraband, then there are consequences for that. But
For
this
sure. Yeah,
punishment does not fit the offense, and
that's right.
in my opinion. But
That's right.
we'll
But
we'll
you
see.
have, mhm, yeah,
It's
because you
definitely
have.
made it a hot button topic. Sorry, we're talking over each
That's
other
okay.
today.
It's all right. It's that kind of day. Today is a day off in Ontario, so maybe that's why. It's President's Day in the U.S.
It
too,
is
right? So
President's Day in
yeah,
the U.S. So if you work
yeah.
for the government, the post office, I think
Hmm.
banks were closed today, you know,
Right.
but I think everybody else went to work.
Right. Whereas here it's not in every province, but Ontario is called Family Day, and it was just at some point a couple of years ago. People say, you know what, we need a day off in February. Let's just call it Family Day, whatever.
I
We don't.
like it.
Who cares? We're off. So that's that's all we need to know. But just to get back to, before I move on to a different topic, I want to talk to you about is, you know, the way that a state treats its prisoners is, all of that is done on behalf of the people of that
Right.
state. And, it's not okay for some people to say, well, it doesn't concern me because I'm not in jail. I don't know anybody in jail. Like, we all respect the laws and nobody I know is involved. It still concerns you because the treatment of prisoners is done in your name, because every crime in the United States is a crime against the people.
Right.
The same way in Canada, a crime is against the crown or the king, technically. There's a reason why criminal law is so important, and it's because these offenses against the people, you're trying to, when you're punishing someone for having committed a crime, it's for having breached the trust that you should have within society, that rules are going to be respected. And when someone commits a crime, they show that they have not respected that, so that's why they get punished. But you don't want to punish them to a point where it's disproportionate to the crime that they committed, because then you're the offender,
Right.
right? Mhm.
And you're
So that's
subject
why
to the
it's so
same
important.
punishment
Exactly.
if things go off the
Mhm.
rails. You never know.
So this, I'm going to do a segue here. Nobody's going to notice that I'm segueing into the Ten Commandments.
Ah, crimes and
Because
punishments. Yes,
there's a bill in Alabama to put the Ten Commandments in schools. And now this is not the first time that a story like that has popped up, and it happens
absolutely
every now
not.
and then because people think that the Ten Commandments should be in school. And you could say the Ten Commandments are kind of like not a bad set of rules. I don't know about taking the Lord in vain. Whoops, the Lord's name in vain. I do that a little bit perhaps too often, but they're generally speaking, that is not a bad set of rules. So
Right.
it's
It's a good guide.
right. But to say that it's not a religious text to me is a little bit funky. And this is what's been happening last week in
Uh,
Alabama. Was the sponsor of that bill in the state legislatures was the, because there's separation of church and state, and they say, yeah, but that's fine because that's not a religious text. I'm like, dude, buddy,
okay.
like that's the Bible. The Bible, if the Bible is not a religious text, then we have some
Then we
explaining to
we
do
need
to
to
a lot
right.
of
We need to
people.
have a conversation because I'm greatly confused. You know,
But I
and
wanted.
and
Mhm. Go ahead.
it's just such a strange thing that they're pushing for it to be this historical document, and I
Mhm.
get historical documents. You know, we've got the Constitution, we've got
Yeah.
the Magna Carta, we've got all
Mhm.
these things
The Gettysburg
that
Address.
all the things that are written
Mhm.
down and that we've seen. A
Mhm.
lot of things have vanished through time,
Mhm.
that we don't. But there's writings of, and yes, there is writings of the Ten Commandments in two places in the Bible, I believe. Eh, but it was a. There's so many contexts that it was written in. None of it was in English. And we're going to say that these are the definitive 10, and they're translated correctly, and they're going to go I just think it's a little bit of a reach. I don't know about it.
I wanted to tell you that it's not this disconnect between, like, this is not a religious thing. You're not the only one, because in Quebec, I think it was not even 10 years ago, they had this big crucifix in the legislature. while they were debating a bill on secularism in
Mm.
public. So they want to ban teachers, for instance, and any like police officers and any representative of the state from displaying any ostentatious signs of religion. So if you have a little crucifix tucked inside your shirt, for instance, that's fine, but you can't wear a hijab. So that's, they were debating a bill like that under a crucifix. And so people pointed out to the little dead Jesus on a cross there. So I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's what it is. And they say it was a mess. And it was an objet d'art, like it was an artwork because it had been done by a famous sculptor. But regardless, it is still Jesus on the cross. And saying to the premier, the leader of the province, said, "Well, how can you be debating this bill under this crucifix?" And he turned around and said, "Well, that's not a religious sign. That's a cultural thing." It's like, again, but they took it down eventually because to try and be a little bit at least coherent with themselves. If you want people to be secular in public and keep the religion in their private spaces or churches or places of worship, that's one thing. But you can't do this while having Jesus in the legislature. This doesn't like it doesn't add up at all.
And this isn't Alabama's first rodeo. We had Roy Moore. I don't know if you remember this character. That
Yes, the guy on
yes,
the
Roy
horse, right? Was
Sassy.
near
Yes, yes.
yeah.
That's the one. He had the Ten Commandments in his courtroom, and I was fortunate enough as a child to be in that courtroom after my parents' divorce and see this firsthand. And it came about that they wanted it taken down out of his courtroom, and
Hmm.
it was he was so staunch about it would never come down. And then when he got to Montgomery in his first position, I believe they put him outside of the state building, like this huge marble Ten Commandments, and
Hmm.
it just exacerbated the situation. And I really don't know if it's there any longer or not,
I
but
didn't
this
see it
is
when I went a couple of weeks ago, a couple of
yeah,
months
we'll
ago.
have
So I
to
didn't
look
see
into
it.
that and see. But
Hmm.
this is not our first rodeo with these 10 rules of the road here.
Hmm.
Um, if
Yeah.
old dogs, new tricks.
Yeah, you can't move. If progress does not move equally on every subject. But
It does not.
but when it comes to that sky bridge, tell us what's happening with the sky bridge in Huntsville. It's exciting, right?
That's exciting news. They awarded the first $20 million contract to go in and excavate
Hmm.
Pinhook Creek to address some flooding issues, um, some habitation, wildlife, um, get it ready for some park areas. That's the
Hmm.
step one. And it will hook into our existing greenways. And eventually it will have I think it was a 1,400 foot suspended
Suspended.
cable
Hmm. Hmm.
sky bridge that takes us from right here in West Huntsville across the downtown, and we don't
Right.
have to get in our car and go try to park. And so it's super cool. And the renderings, it looks kind of like the Jetsons, futuristic. I think it'll be a great landmark for
Hmm.
Huntsville, an icon for the city.
Right.
Instead of just egg beater Jesus and the low meal smokestack, we're going to have something else, a
Yeah.
little newer, and a good neutral territory there. But it's I'll send you a picture of and I'm sure you've seen it, but
Hmm.
it's a great engineer's drawing for what they're going for.
And for people who are not familiar with Huntsville, is just to point out that the neighborhood that it originates from and then goes to downtown, it is not like if you were to fly between the two places, it would not take that long because it's actually quite close to one another. But the roads to get from West Huntsville or Low Mill to downtown, so it's about maybe about 3 miles, you'd say, if you were driving downtown, and then you have to park
Yeah,
and so on when you
all the
go downtown.
things.
So this one would kind of go like more like the direct route, and it could even make it, if accounting for traffic and parking time and so on, if you were using your bicycle, especially your electric
That's right.
the one that you have that's electric pedal assist there, it could probably eventually be faster to take your
I,
bike to go downtown than it would be by
yes,
car. And this is just like such a wonderful progressive thing, and people don't realize that Huntsville, Alabama is actually being very smart about active transportation and planning for the future that way. But it's not just a great active transportation bridge, it's also a flood management um,
yes.
infrastructure so that it's going to help uh, not flood. And those
Yes.
floods in that area, they're rare, but when they do happen, as I understand it, they're pretty bad. Like, maybe
Right.
not catastrophic, but like
But
close to it. And
yes,
this
and it
will
goes
help
through
mitigate that.
downtown.
Hmm.
Yes, so all the good things coming out of it.
I
So
know. I'm so
step
impressed by that.
one, exciting news.
Hmm.
So what you've got to fill me in. I didn't catch all the details on the school shooting
Hmm.
in
British
Canada.
Columbia. Yeah, northern
Yes.
British Columbia, a little place called Tumbler Ridge. I want to say the population 2,500 people, quite small. And this happened last Tuesday, and it was an 18-year-old person, a trans woman at that age. I would call her a woman, but with the name, so born man with the name Jesse, and still kept that name, but had transitioned socially to be express herself as a woman about 5 or 6 years ago, and was going as she her but as Jesse. So that's it got a little confusion at the beginning because people
Okay.
started coming up with the name, and then there were pictures of with long hair and everything. People said, what are you talking about, Jesse? Anyway, so eventually the police came out and just explained what I just explained to you, very matter of factly. um, and so that's the first thing that's to be noticed about this incident, is that we did not freak out about the trans issue thing. And there was no trans hate related to
Right.
this
That
incident,
was the
except for some
non-issue.
bot farms from somewhere else and, a couple of fringe elements on the internet. Fine. But like every other person was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's clearly this is a situation where this person had mental health issues. It lived in a household with guns, registered guns, legal guns that had been taken away previously. I think some elements of the timeline are still a little bit fuzzy, but a few years ago had been taken away by police because of red flag laws. And then the owners, the family members had petitioned to get their guns back, got their guns back, and then some of
Mm.
those guns were used in the killings. What it appears at the moment, that what we do know is that this person, mental health issues, and also obsessed with video games,
Mm.
and recreated some scenes of shootings inside of Roblox, the video game platform,
Yeah.
and then appears to have enacted something like that in real life, starting
Wow.
with her half brother and mother, and then moving on to the local school and shooting. So in total, there were 8 folks. So that means, yeah, six. I don't do math. 6 more at the school. 12, 13-year-old kids and a teacher, I think a teacher, an adult at the school, and then killed herself when police arrived. What is to be noticed about noted about this story is that the local police, so this is the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mountain Police, that polices small communities like that. They were there, I think, within 2 minutes, and they
Wow.
just ran in and confronted.
Mm.
And
Can
as
can
soon
I
as
get
they
you
got
to
there. Mhm.
can I get you to just repeat that one more time? What did they do?
They just barged into the building. Instead of establishing a perimeter, they ran in, and or
I
went
think we
in.
should take
Um,
note. Yes.
yes, and at great risk to themselves. And what has been mentioned by the police is that the minute they entered that school, there was no more victims other than the shooter herself, who killed herself.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing. The other thing that is remarkable, what happened, especially for Americans who may not have noticed the story, is that at the invitation of the mayor of that town, the prime minister went for a vigil on Friday. And the prime minister, as is customary in those circumstances, and then the prime minister turned around and invited every other party leader in the House of Commons to go with, including the separatist Quebec guy, who did a tribute to the victims in English. He always speaks French in the House of Commons because he represents Quebec separatists. And in Canada, French and English have equal status in law, so you're allowed to do this. This time, he actually said in French first that he was going to speak in English as to make an exception, because he was talking and addressing people in British Columbia who may not understand French. So he was going to do it in English.
Mm.
Everybody went together on the same plane to pay their respects to the victims and attend a vigil.
Wow.
They held hands during the ceremony itself. They all laid flowers and wreaths, and they did the thing. Zero politics.
Things to take note of.
And yes, there will be serious debates and questions eventually about this. Like, for instance, do we have to make red flag laws a little bit more stringent? Are there other things there that we could do that could prevent something like that from happening again? but
If you're
we
flagged,
haven't.
how do you get them back?
Right, or should you?
Right,
Or how many right, so and who
right,
gets to decide, like, and what are the parameters and all that kind of stuff. So this needs to be debated, and it will be, but not until all the victims are probably,
right. And that's
all
all
the
right.
ceremonies,
All
yeah, and we.
settled.
Mhm. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I think that, I mean, and we don't get, so this was a school shooting with 9 victims, including the shooter. So 8 plus a shooter, depending on how you're counting. This is the second largest school shooting we've ever had.
Wow.
The largest one is a Polytechnique school in Montreal, an engineering school at the Université in Montreal that killed 14 women. Um, and that was in 1989.
Wow.
So we don't get those
Yeah.
shootings often,
Right. I
mercifully.
mean, we
We
get them
don't.
like the flu
Mhm.
here.
Right. But it's important to see that when those happen, who you are when the worst happens says a
It
lot
shows a
about you.
lot. Yes.
And that made me proud to be Canadian when I saw that.
Yes. Because
Hmm.
all you get here in America are thoughts and prayers, and you're never
Right.
going to take our guns. Like, and it just keeps rolling. And I remember, I graduated high school in 1999, and we'd never heard of a school shooting.
Hmm.
Like doors weren't locked; they were open. Like we would leave the breezeways open. It would you could check in or out or go use the payphone. I'm dating myself
Right.
there, but that's how it was. And Columbine was our first one here in the United States, and it was. I remember being so overwhelmed, like this is happening by students in a
Hmm.
school, and you think, okay, surely we're going to get a handle on this. And,
Hmm.
25, 6 years later, I mean, it's just a regular occurrence. That's why, we had it on the notes. But moreover than the school shooting is how that y'all handle it there. Because
Hmm.
here it's like thoughts and prayers on to the next
Or
situation.
worse, Sandy
Right.
Hook and the people saying this was a
It was fake. Yeah.
like a, yeah, false flag thing. Like, can you even, like,
I-
how bad in your head
yes.
can you be to make that point? Is I won't even call that an argument to say anything like
Right.
that.
That's delusional. Like,
Right. And we don't have that here, right?
yeah. Well,
And so, yeah, anyway, so there's a
mm,
lot of lessons from Canada these days that
yes,
some people,
I'm
not
taking
all,
notes,
yeah,
but I'm taking
right.
notes to hand out.
Um,
Like I need
hmm.
everybody to get on board.
So anyway, so that was, yeah, as I say, a very difficult week for a
Oh,
lot of people,
yes.
clearly. And those, I mean, it makes, in a town this small, to lose suddenly eight people. Everybody knows somebody who's directly affected, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mm.
but I think that the reaction was what it needed to be for
Yes,
everyone. And
united.
it was healing. It helped to heal. So good on the
Well,
politicians for having done that. They all
right.
behave admirably. So we
Yes.
get points for
And
that.
wishing all those families the best,
Hmm.
How do you pick up and recover? But
I don't know.
yeah, I
I
couldn't
can't. Yeah,
imagine.
I can't imagine. So,
Mm-mm.
well, on this note, Nadir.
Right. On this note, I'm going to go have some tequila.
All right, and I will talk to you next week.
All right, love. Have a great week.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.